Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Club Live on Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. We are live on YouTube, so please, shameless plug as always, like and subscribe the channel. It is completely free. It will help me and the guys out massively. You can also get involved in the live chat, so there is no excuse. I am your host tonight, Nicky Irvine. And on a week where Rangers take maximum points in tricky venues, I will try and get the maximum out of two tricky podders for the next hour between Ali Pearson and I. Ali, how's it going? How's your week been, mate?
Eventually it was a good week, to be honest. Wednesday, obviously, we'll come into it. My heart was going like the clappers. Rangers will kill me one day. I've told this to my missus, so I've pre-warned her. But yeah, ultimately 3 points all I want. We got the 3 points, so onwards and upwards. And a Saturday 3 o'clock at Ibrox is what I look forward to. But everyone in the comments, if you can, it's Nicky's first time hosting tonight, so he's popping his cherry on Club at 22. So be nice to him tonight.
Absolutely, mate. No, nothing dodgy or any curly questions. No, likewise, I think. It was good to have Rangers back midweek. I think we had the break last week, didn't we, where we didn't have anything between St Johnstone and Hearts, and it puts a bit of a lull in your week, albeit it was heart attack material. I think my heart rate has just about managed to come back down to normal over the last few days. It wasn't a great 90 minutes for viewers, was it? Certainly the last 5 minutes, once the final whistle went, was great, but I think the 90 minutes was somewhat challenging. Cool. Okay, right. So, in terms of agenda, listen, we've got obviously there's just the two of us tonight. Scott is obviously caring for his family. I think Jamie's off out. Ryan is off on holiday, so it's just Ali and I. But we have a packed agenda to fire into the next hour or so. We're going to quickly chat about Kilmarnock. Obviously, Ali, I know you done the post-match, but it'll be good just to get a high level now that we've had a few days to just reflect on the kind of performance and the great result at Rugby Park. We'll do a bit of a spotlight in some of the individual players and some of the moments throughout the match that kind of came out. We've got a piece on James Tavernier as he delivers another big moment in Rangers season. We'll chat a bit about expectations up to the Old Firm and probably more so the split. And then if we've got time, we'll obviously touch very briefly on Clement and Dessers in the presser today before doing our usual look ahead to Saturday, 3 p.m, Motherwell tomorrow. So, Ali, I think obviously you done the post-match with Scott. I think it was a 15 minutes high on emotions. We'll obviously go into individual moments and individual players, but I think on reflection, obviously I said at the start there, Rangers have picked up maximum points across two very tricky fixtures. What we're maybe doing St Johnstone in their park a wee bit of a disservice, actually, because I think you could argue that those were three very tricky fixtures. And I think it's safe to say that had roles been reversed and those were Celtic's fixtures, we would have been probably looking at them rubbing our hands together thinking there's maybe opportunities there where Rangers will drop points or likewise Celtic. And that's not a dig. I think as fans we do that. We look at the fixture list, we look at the hard fixtures and we almost think there's opportunities there for us to take advantage. So obviously at a high level, we've spoken a lot, Ali, about the psychological boost of going top of the table, the psychological boost of winning these big matches. We've spoke a bit about the pressure. We've had that pressure of closing the gap. We've then had the pressure of could we go top? We've now flipped to the pressure of can we remain top? And in three very tricky fixtures, the opportunity to go top and then twice to stay top. Rangers have come out on top on all three of them. And we are now starting, I think, to remove some of that scar tissue that we have as fans that's ingrained on us from the last 10 or 12 years. But what was your overall reflections, Ali, just on obviously the result, what it means for Clement and this squad, and maybe what it means for the next few weeks in let's face it, a very tight title race at the minute?
Yeah, thank you very much, Gordon Addy, for the super sticker. Much appreciated. No, Wednesday night was huge for me, Nicky. It was. You looked at the fixture list. You round off St Johnstone, Hearts, and Kilmarnock away. That's 3 tricky games. And we talked about the pressure of being top of the league as well. Can Rangers cope with that different pressure of being top of the league and being chased by Celtic ultimately? But out of the last 2 games, that Kilmarnock game was the one I looked at and thought, if we're going to have this bump in the road, this is the game we'll have the bump. I'll be honest, I didn't think we started. It's the first time I've seen a bit of nervousness creep into us in the first half. We looked a bit lost at times. I don't know if it's this park, Nicky. I mean, our record at Rugby Park is shocking. Some players, like Cortez, was falling his arse every 2 minutes. It's probably not used to the surface, but when Kilmarnock went 1-0 up, and you have to say, fair play to Kilmarnock, Nicky, because they didn't sit in. They came in and had a go at Rangers, and I thought Kilmarnock were very good. I thought Kilmarnock, for being honest, should have been at least 2-0 up at half time. I feared the worst. The turning point for me in the game was that Jack Butland save 5 minutes into the second half. If Rangers go 2-0 down, for me, we're not getting a draw. We're dropping. We'd probably lose that game if I'm blatantly honest, but they showed character again, Nicky. Tavernier's free kick. I mean, how many... The doubters, I mean, we'll come on to Tav, but the doubters and James Tavernier, this guy steps up, big moments for Rangers, and it was a big moment. And he galvanised that Rangers team, Nicky, and we went on and won the game. But it's massive, and it shows there's a lot of doubters within the support, including me, because as you say, scar tissue in terms of previous seasons. You're kind of waiting for it to collapse at one point. But I think that result Wednesday night gave even some people that doubted Rangers the belief that, that this team are serious. There's 10 games to go now, Nicky. I mean, it's going to be an absolute roller coaster. So strap yourselves in. But it was a huge result. And from now to me, now to the end of the season, as I say, as Clement says, it's a game at a time. For me, we tick that off. That's a big tick. That's Rugby Park. That's a dodgy one. The other side, I know they humped Dundee, but they would have been looking at half time going, they're going to drop. And ultimately, we didn't. I think we've took the wind out of their sails, even though they got a big result, because we've come back and we've won, but we're serious about this title. So it was a huge result for Rangers, Nicky. But ultimately, it's just one game. There's 10 games to go. But we tick off and we move on for me.
No, completely agree, mate. I think some of the things that you've said, I think it's safe to say that was certainly the worst 50 minutes under Clement, I think, since he's come in. And yeah, I think a lot of that credit goes to Kilmarnock. I know Derek McInnes gets a bit of a hard time from Rangers fans, obviously because of the situation that happened several years ago. But Derek McInnes is a good manager. He is a good manager. I don't think he is maybe cut out to be a Rangers or Celtic manager where you're expected to dominate, but that sort of role where he picks up a team that's kind of got a strong budget. He punches above their weight, right? You look at the demise of Aberdeen, which I'm loving, by the way, but since he's left, right, they have massively deteriorated. And you look at Kilmarnock, what did they take over? Halfway through the championship season, I think. He obviously got them promoted. I think realistically, his task was always going to be about how you stay in the league the next year, and he done that, and now he's pushing for fourth, right? So yeah, massive credit to them. I like you at points thought, has this park and this fixture get in our heads? Because you're spot on, right? You look at the last 10 results again, or the last 10 games against them in the league. I think we'd only won 3. That's pathetic. Yeah. That's not good enough, right, at Rugby Park. On the flip, you look at some of the cup record, right? I think we'd played 4 cup games there. I think we'd won 3 of them. So that is a lot better. But I was beginning to think that maybe this fixture, maybe this park has got in people's head. We build it up, don't we? We build it up and build it up. We're talking about it all week, about this plastic park. And sometimes you go, just get on with it, right? I think you and I and some of the other guys spoke. It's not Real Madrid, right? It's Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. But we do have that mantra of kind of building that up. But yeah, I think likewise, it is a bit of a sickener, I think, across the river. Again, we talk about, you look at those three fixtures on paper, Celtic will be looking at it. I think Rugby Park, my personal opinion, I think that's the hardest place to go in the league.
Yeah.
I think with the exception of Ibrox and Parkhead, obviously, for Celtic and Rangers respectively, that is the hardest place to go, in my opinion. We've now been there twice. Obviously, we know what happened in day one. But yeah, it's a massive tick. It's a massive psychological boost for this squad. In terms of individual moments, Ali, you spoke a bit about the save. And I agree, by the way. We speak a lot on this pod about big moments that define players, big moments that define matches, big moments that define championships. And I think there was probably three massive moments in that game. I think one is obviously the Butland save. I think Joshua Barry, I think for the Rangers Review, a piece on Twitter, I think it was either yesterday or today, that I think it was Kennedy chance was the highest XG in the entire match. So it was like 0.81, right? He was really expected to score that. It was quite frustrating, I think, that we switched off for the quick free kick that chance was generated from. But you're right, it is an absolutely enormous save from Jack Butland. We obviously then have the James Tavernier moment, which we'll come on and speak about Tav individually in a wee sec. But the other big individual that I would probably highlight is Tom Lawrence, because I think in both of the goals he had a place in it. And I think he's been behind a lot of the good things, in my opinion, that Rangers have done over the last few weeks and few months since he's started getting a bit of a run of games. You look at the Tavernier goal, all right, Lawrence gets a wee bit of fortune. I think the ball breaks to him, but he carries on to the edge of the box. He wins the free kick. And then it's brilliant, by the way. I don't know if some of the pods were talking about it, and I've seen it on Twitter, the quick throw from Clement onto whoever it is that takes it down the line to Lawrence. He obviously wins a free quick kick, really quick thinking. The ball's inside. One of the other things that I thought was brilliant, by the way, was Cortez went right at the heart of their defence.
Yeah,
that's a Ryan Kent, no disrespect. He does 3 or 4 step overs, right, and probably loses the ball. Kent caused a bit of chaos in their Cortez caused a bit of chaos, I think, going at their defence. We obviously get the break of the ball, and what a strike by Lawrence, by the way. It's come back at him really, really fast. To keep that low and fire it into the faraway corner is brilliant technique. But obviously, in terms of those moments, Jack Butland, Tom Lawrence, what's your kind of thoughts on Butland and what he's bringing to the team at the minute, and obviously the resurgence of Tom Lawrence, who's, I think, been a pivotal part of this team for a few weeks now?
What more can you say about Jack Butland? The guy's too good for up here, Nicky. He really is. I mean, he's frighteningly good. I mean, he got Diomande out of when Diomande done that back pass. I absolutely feared the worst. If that's Alan McGregor last season, he's not getting there. Jack Butland read that situation and done very well. He's there for big moments. A lot of the time, Jack Butland's not going to have much to do in Rangers games because we have a lot of the ball, but when he is called up, he delivers big moments. That's a huge moment because, like I say, they score that goal, Nicky. They win that game for me, Kilmarnock. I really do think they win that game. I don't even think we get a draw out of it, but just big moments he comes up with, Jack Butland. He's such a calming influence to the back line as well, knowing that he's behind, knowing that if they make an arse or something, Jack Butland's there. Balls into our box, Nicky. I mean, we like to concede, Carney said, umpteen corners in the last minute of games, which really does not do my heart anything. But you know with Jack Butland there, he'll come and take one of them, or he'll punch it away. He doesn't stay in his line, so he's fantastic. I just hope we have him for years to come because he's only 30 years of age, but what a signing he's been. I mean, he was very good in England years ago, kind of lost his way a wee bit, but he's come back and he loves it up here. He really does love it up here, but he's massive for us. He's a leader. He's a guy you want in the dressing room. There's not much more I can say about Jack Butland, but I just hope he stays for a while. And on Lawrence, before you come in a podcast, Nicky, I said to the boys when we signed Tom Lawrence, I used to watch Tom Lawrence for Derby. I watched a lot of championship games on Sky on a Saturday. There used to be a lot of games at 12 o'clock before you would go along to Ibrox, and there was a lot of Derby games, and he played for Derby. And when he came to Rangers, I thought, no, he's a player because he can go box to box, he can shoot, he can score. We're crying out for midfielders that can shoot and score. Obviously, Diamandi's done it twice, but he's got it in his locker. Tom Lawrence, he's a clever player as well. I like him. I know he's played at deeper positions when Cantwell plays sometimes. I like him further forward, but I understand why Cantwell plays at 10. But Lawrence is a clever player. He can unlock doors for me, Tom Lawrence. That's what he can do for Rangers. And I think he'll be key going forward because Cantwell's out for the next... Cantwell's probably out till... I think there's an international break in about 3 weeks' time or something. So you'd think maybe Cantwell might come back after then. So he's out for a few games, including European games. So Tom Lawrence will need to step up there. Folk will say, his injuries in terms of he's been unlucky at Rangers, but previous to coming to Rangers, he wasn't injured at any other teams. He's not been out for a long period of time in his career until he came to Rangers, which kind of sums up
the curse of Rangers, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, the other night, I think they said that something happened with his vision. I think that was the bloody pellets in the rugby park pitch that got into his eyes. I think that's what it was. But he's all right for tomorrow, apparently. But he's a big player for me, Nicky. And he's starting to tick now for me. He obviously was out for a while. He's getting game time now, but he's a clever player for me. And he's a guy that I think once Todd Cantwell comes back, interesting what we do with Lawrence. Because he can play out on the left-hand side as well, Tom Lawrence. So interesting what we do with him. But he's a big player for us, especially in the next couple of games.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. I think on Jack Butland, I think the word I would use is he's assured. I think he's assured in everything he does. Yeah. I think what we've probably been quite used to with Alan McGregor is a guy, to your point, who will do nothing for 89 minutes because we have most of the ball and then pulls off a world-class save. But I think some of the negatives around McGregor has always been how good he is with his feet when he's kind of playing at the back, how good he is and how commanding he is in his box with crosses and corners and stuff like that. I'm not for any minute saying that Jack Butland is better than Alan McGregor, but Jack Butland seems more rounded as a goalkeeper because what he's doing is he's making the big stops. He gives you that sense of assurance with corners and free kicks. That scar tissue is still there, but it is slowly getting away. I also think Jack Butland's very, very good with his feet. His distribution's great. He can kick with both feet.
Yeah.
So no, he's been an unbelievable signing for us in the short time he's here. He's certainly in the conversation for Player of the Year with Rangers. I suspect he will be in the conversation for Scottish Player of the Year as well, depending on what happens between now and the end of the season. And yeah, I think on Lawrence as well, I think the thing I really like about Lawrence is he's very, very quick thinking. I think everything he does, and that's maybe a bit of a negative sometimes because he almost seems a step ahead of some other players sometimes. Yeah. But the other thing I really like, he always looks to pass forward, which is something we've moaned about as fans for years now, right? When we had the likes of Jack and Kamara and Lundstrom, when he wasn't going through his kind of purple patches, everything was too slow, everything was too sideways or back the way. Lawrence is very, very forward thinking. He can go short, he can go long. And yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll be a massive player for us in the next 10 games, certainly domestically, as well as however many other games we'll have with Scottish Cup and European. We've obviously covered off the positives, mate. We're going to need to come on to the negatives, right? I'm running the agenda tonight. Borna Barisich is going to be on there, and rightly so. When you talk about goals conceded, you can almost always trace them back to something, right? Something's happened somewhere. Somebody's made a mistake. Somebody wasn't in position, etc., etc. Very rarely do you go, do you know what? That is just utter brilliance. We could have done absolutely nothing about it. That goal, although it's a penalty, all stems from Borna Barisich the other night. I'm not sure why we played Borna Barisic in that game. I, as a fan, could tell that was going to be a bit of a disaster because Kilmarnock, using their wingers, Danny Armstrong is very, very aggressive. He is on the left back like a rash. And Borna Barisic does not deal with that well at all when people are in their face and really aggressive. We've seen it against Celtic under Ange Postecoglou, that really aggressive forward thinking. He just does not fare well in that. And I think in the actual moment, it is just utter stupidity. Borna Barisic is at least 5 or 6 yards ahead of Danny Armstrong when he gets to that ball. In my mind, there is a very easy right-footed pass back to Jack Butland that then you move out to Connor Goldson or you move out to James Tavernier and you continue. But he just fills his shorts, right? As soon as it's not on his favoured left foot, he just shits himself, for lack of a better phrase. And to be fair to him, I think there maybe was a wee bit of a clip. And 9 times out of 10, when you're a defender and you're running with the ball and an attacker comes in at the back of you, the slightest touch, if you go down, you normally get a free kick. The big problem I have is Borna Barisic decided to take about 4 or 5 strides before he decided to go down. And then he decides to handle the ball as well, which is just like 2 wrongs straight away. And I think that he is very, very fortunate, to be honest, and he should be grateful that his teammates dug him out of that, because I think if we dropped points, if that had been 1 each or 1-0 or whatever it had finished, I think the vast majority of Rangers fans' anger would solely have been pointed at Borna Barisic, because I think that all stemmed from him. And David Edgar, I was listening to one of his updates on Heart and Hand, I think just the other day. He actually addressed the rotation piece, and I know we've spoke about it on the pod as well. And I think what David had said was, come on, it wasn't the game for Borna Barisic. That was a game for Ridvan. He actually said, with all due respect, in lesser words, a home game against Motherwell, like Saturday, is the game for Borna Barisic. I'm beyond that point now. Borna Barisic should play when we are playing Partick Thistle or Ayr United at Ibrox for me. Ridvan should be in that team. And see if Ridvan can't play, I'd be inclined to put Dujon Sterling in there. Borna Barisic is completely done with me and in this team. Thoughts on the incident, Borna Barisic moving forward, Ali Pearson?
It's a pity Ryan's not tonight.
Oh, he would have been doing this, by the way.
Ryan would. But Ryan's having his 100th holiday in a year. Ryan's always got a bloody holiday at the moment. I'm sick yet. Wish I was going on holiday. But enjoy your holiday, Ryan. I know you're listening. But no, Borna Barisic. Though I did say with Carney, I wouldn't be surprised if he played Barisic. I think he plays him because of this kind of. I think David Edgar did kind of mention something like this in terms of this myth that Yilmaz can't deal with these diagonal balls in the air, and we'll put Barisic in there for a bit of height. Barisic is one of these guys that is he's powder puff for me, Nicky. And that Armstrong having a go up and down that side, and he stands off him all the time, lets him get by him. He looks frightened half the time. He's not a guy I want to see if we are going in the trenches, which is a Kilmarnock game. He's not a guy you want. Yilmaz gives you a bit of dig, gives you something different. He's direct. I like Yilmaz, but Borna Barisic, when he did that, the guy for me never touches him, and he goes down, grabs the ball. I mean, I was watching with Carney, and we looked at each other and went, "What the fuck? What's he doing?" And you knew at that moment we're conceding. And I know we didn't concede directly off that. It's from a second phase of play for the penalty and stuff. But I bet every Rangers fan at that point knew we're about to concede here, because it's the type of goal we would concede. And I completely agree with you. He cost us that first goal. I know it's from a second phase of play in terms of the Lundstrom, and we can debate that if it's a handball or not. But Borna Barisic cost us that first goal with stupidity. Then he got booked 10 minutes later because he couldn't deal with Armstrong.
Yeah,
I turned to Carney, Nicky, and I says, I'd hook him right now. Because if you're Danny Armstrong, he's in a booking, you've got 20 minutes to go, you're going at him to try and get him the second booking to get him off. Obviously, Clement took him off at half time and fair play. I would have hooked him straight away. I get why Clement's not done it, because if you hook him straight away, it's not good for him. But ultimately, you need to look after Rangers. Rangers are our number one, not Borna Barisich. He's a guy that's run his course at Rangers, Nicky. He's done well for Rangers. He has done well. You can't bash a guy all the time because he's done well for Rangers. He's been a decent signing for us for what we paid for him. But at the moment, he shouldn't be in a team. What Yilmaz offers for us now is, I mean, Ryan called it months and months and months ago about Yilmaz. He said, give this boy time, he'll come good. And fair play to Ryan, he got it right. He got it bang on. Borna Barisich for me, I know we're playing Motherwell tomorrow. He doesn't play tomorrow. He doesn't play at the end of the season. He's a backup going forward, and he's a guy along with a long list of other guys in the summer that we move on. Thanks for your service, Borna, but that's it for me. He was embarrassing on Wednesday night. But for me, Barisich, I don't want to see him. Don't want to see him for the rest of the season.
Agreed, mate. And I think, I think all of us suggested that Barisich would have been in the team. There is this myth about physical teams. Barisich offers you the physicality. And if David Edgar's saying it, I think we've exchanged WhatsApps as well. The argument just doesn't stand up anymore. Yilmaz get beat at a back post against Hearts, and I think people are holding that against him. Since that, how many times have you seen Yilmaz get caught under the ball at the back post? Not once. You look at some of how aggressive he is at defending. I know he's brilliant going forward. He really offers us a different dynamic. But you look at his defending as well. Very, very aggressive. He's good in the air. You look at the dual stats. It's night and day. And I get the point. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would have hooked him after he made an arse of it. You look at what he done to Cantwell, right? Cantwell went on, didn't follow instructions, was hooked after 25 millions. It's worked wonders with him. You don't know with Barisich. Barisich is a slightly different personality. You're maybe right. Barisich then just disappears into his shell potentially, and you don't see. He is a confidence player. I think when Rangers are playing very well and they're dominating, Barisich, he maybe contributes, but as you say, when you're in the trenches, he will continually let you down. Just last thing on Kilmarnock, mate, before we move on. Probably, I was going to say 3 penalty incidents, but I'll take my blue-tinted specs off, mate. There was probably 4 penalty incidents. There was, obviously, the Lundstrom actual penalty. I think there was an instance in the second half where one of the Kilmarnock players broke into the box. I think Raskin came together with them.
Yeah.
Penalty or not. And then, obviously, we had the 2 at the other end for Rangers. I think Dessers tries to beat, I don't know if it was Mayo or Findlay for the 3rd or 4th time. It seems to bounce up and hit his hand in the box. And then I think we've got the one right at the death where Wright goes to the byline. I think he crosses it, and Lewis Mayo seems to stretch his hand out and connect with the ball. Your opinion, mate, the 4 scenarios, penalties, not penalties?
It's hard, Nicky, because this bloody handball rule, nobody knows what it is at the moment, because there's penalties been given for certain ones and penalties not given. And we're not talking about Rangers here, but we can talk about this week in terms of ones that have been given. I mean, the one that St Mirren never got against Ross County when the guy's falling with his hand in there and it hits him. God, unbelievable. But in terms of the ones, the Lundstrom one, he turns his back. I don't know what he can do with his arm. It's a dodgy one. If it's against us, I'm shouting for it. I mean, I'm shouting for anything, but dodgy. I can see why it's given, but it's that dodgy one, I'll be honest about it. The one where the boy broke in, we're asking, I don't think there was much in that. The one where Dessers was through in goal and he loves to check back inside instead of bloody shooting. That's not a penalty for me. It hits off the boy's hand, but he doesn't know what's happening, if you know what I mean. So for me, no, I'd be raging if that was given against us. But the last one, the one where Scott Wright cuts in and puts the ball across and the boy's hands out and it hits him, that's a stonewall penalty for me. Absolute. As soon as me and Canny seen it, we looked at each other and went, that's a penalty. And then for it to go to VAR and he goes, it wasn't a penalty. Unbelievable. And Clement's going on about players having to play like penguins going on because what are they meant to do? It's ridiculous. But aye, the one at the end is a stonewall penalty, and you can moan about the rule all you want, but that is a stonewall penalty. But I'm not shocked, Nicky, because we're talking about this every week, not just, like as I say, not just with Rangers, but other teams. It's, what is a penalty now? Nobody knows.
I know, and listen, I would agree with you. I think one of the things when I looked at the Lundstrom situation, I always think if you take his arm away, what happens to the ball? I think with the Lundstrom scenario, if you take his arm away, it hits him in the ribcage or it hits him in the back, somewhere along his body. So it probably doesn't influence where the ball is going. I think part of the problem is Lundstrom does this funny thing where he then throws his hand up in the air after it connects. And I don't know if that's maybe made the ref's decision for him, but likewise, I think they're asking one. Agreed, I didn't see much in it. I think the one with Dessers when he's kind of footering about at the edge of the box, I think it maybe hits the boy's body first and then bounces up and hits his hand. So I agree. I think when you look at the rules, I don't think that constitutes a penalty. But the final one with Mayo, right? He moves his hand to the ball. It strikes his hand. It's away from his body. You do wonder what is going on in this bar room. Like, have they fallen asleep or something? Like, why are they not looking at that? I'd love to hear what the conversation was as to why that, because they never even called over the referee to look at it. So yes, just absolutely baffling. Cool. So we've covered Kilmarnock. I think it's now time to hear from our sponsors before we move on to the second part of the podcast. So, this podcast is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions Manscaped. So this season, make sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below the waist grooming. Clear out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com and use code CLUB@22 for 20% off and free shipping. After using Manscaped, I can finally say I have caught the spring fever. Introducing the season's champ, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It also features dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. It is also waterproof. Spring cleaning doesn't just apply to the nether regions. Get the full grooming experience with Manscaped's signature Beard Hedge Pro Kit and Handyman Electric Face Shaver. Whether you're looking to craft your signature or clean up that neckline, these are always the right tools for the job. And as I say, get 20% off and free shipping with the code CLUB@22 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code CLUB@22 at manscaped.com. Everybody loves a bit of spring cleaning, and our friends at Manscaped give you the best tools for the job. That is a mouthful.
Well done. That was very professionally done there.
I got it, by the way, the 5.0. Cannot speak highly of it. It is a fantastic product. So for anybody who's looking for a bit of equipment for that, I would highly recommend that. And as we've said in the promo, 20% off. Cool. Okay, so listen, we're going to move on. So last week we had the overrated, the overhated, the best, the worst, and the underrated, didn't we? Which created a bit of chat amongst our viewers and our listeners. So we've got another question. It would have been good to have a few more podders on so we could have a bit of an open debate on this. But we speak about big moments. James Tavernier has delivered another match-defining moment, right? You add it to the list. It is an ever-growing list of big moments that James Tavernier has delivered on for this football club. So the question that I'm keen to hear from you on, and obviously our viewers and listeners, is Tav now considered the greatest Rangers right-back of our generation? Now, before I let you all loose, I obviously want to just caveat that and provide a bit of context. Obviously, This is our generation, so I don't want to hear shouts of Sandy Jardine. Ali and I are unfortunately not old enough to have experienced the likes of Sandy Jardine. But Ali and I are of similar ages. I think thinking back to when I probably started watching Rangers, probably around the middle of 9 in a row. I think I remember my old man having the old tapes of the Battle of Britain matches, Leeds versus Rangers, with a "Do Not Tape Over" sticker on them. You remember them, the old tapes in the house?
Yeah.
So I remember watching them, but it was probably middle of kind of 9 in the row that I started certainly getting an interest in Rangers and football. So obviously what I wanted to do was just build a bit of the foundations of, we've obviously had a lot of players. I've managed to pull out a kind of handful of players that have played for us over that sort of time frame. I think looking at it, Ali, you and I spoke offline, we've probably a little less consistency in the right back. I was quite surprised how many players we've had over the years at right back. Left back, we've maybe been a bit more consistent. You think about Davy Robertson through 9 in a row. You look at Arthur Newman. You look at Sasa Papac, and then even Lee Wallace, right? I know people have got certain opinions about Lee Wallace, but in my opinion, another terrific servant, under challenging circumstances. But if I think about the kind of players we've got here, Ali, I think firstly Gary Stevens was probably slightly before my time. I don't know if you can remember him, but he was probably one of the stalwarts of that beginning of 9 in a row. I think really successful period down in England. I think he won 5 or 6 championships with Rangers, 250 appearances, a few cups as well. We then came on to probably Alec Clen, who I think largely finished off 9 in a row at right back again. Minor success with Dundee United. Obviously, kind of 150 apps, I think, with us. 3 titles, 2 cups. We then had Sergio Parini, who came in and had a bloody successful time in Italy, right? I think he's got a few Serie A titles with Juventus. Obviously, came in under a really strong Dick Advocat team. Treble, double, 2 titles. And then we kind of move on to Fernando Rickson, I think was probably the next big name that I pulled out, kind of early 2000s. Obviously, he had a bit of a nuke at Celtic Park. I think everybody will remember that when he was hooked very, very quickly. But obviously went on to, was a key part of the team that won a treble, 02-03. I think you could maybe argue his better performances then came when he went into centre mid. He obviously captained us to Helicopter Sunday, another brilliant servant. And then we'll probably get Alan Hutton. I think Alan Hutton, maybe a guy who, a consequence of his timing, I think Alan Hutton was a really good right back for us. He didn't have a huge amount of trophies. I think he's only got 1 title win to his name, but his performances for us in Scotland obviously helped him get a £8 or £9 million move down to Spurs. And then obviously before 2012 we had Stephen Whittaker, say what you like, but he was part of the 3 in a row under Walter Smith. He obviously was part of the Euro run to Manchester as well. Kurt Broadfoot, who's probably more famous for the egg incident in the microwave. And then you've got Ricky Foster, who's famous for marrying a singer. I'm not going to go through the banter years, mate, but we then have James Tavernier, I think, closing in on 450 appearances for Rangers now. He's got over 120 goals. I think he's got more goals than some of these guys have got appearances. 1 title as captain, stopped 10 in a row, a League Cup to his name, a Scottish Cup to his name, took us to the Euro final as one of the best players in the tournament, to be honest, and obviously has the opportunity to add to that this season and beyond. But Ali, where does, hard question, right? Where does James Tavernier sit amongst those esteemed players that have played for Rangers Football Club, in your opinion?
Just listen to you rhyme all the players off there, Nicky. Gary Stevens, I was too young. I'm 38, but I was probably too young to really remember him. Alec Clen's probably the one from Alec Clen onwards is what. And Alec Clen was a decent player. Alec Clen for me was like a Sasa Papic. That's what he was on that side. And he scored against Celtic at their midden as well. So I thought he was a steady player for Rangers. And you go through Tavernier and Ole players. Claudio Arena also played at right back. A couple of folk in the comments saying about Nathan Patterson nearer this day and age now. But obviously, it wasn't there for long. But you rhyme all them off, Nicky, and then you get to Tav. Tav's been at Rangers, what? Is it 8 seasons now he's been at Rangers, Tav?
Probably not far off, mate. Aye, probably not
close.
Far off.
I mean, he's close to a testimonial with Rangers. Rhyming all players off there, and obviously we've been lucky enough to see 9 in a row. We've been lucky with Walter's second return. We've seen a lot with Rangers throughout our age group, if you want to say. I think we've been quite lucky to see a lot of stuff that we've seen, but I'd say Tav's above all of them. I really would. His stats don't lie for me. 120 goals. He scored 20 goals this season, and I think 10 assists for a right back. I know a lot of folks say it's penalties, but he needs to put the penalties away. But he's not scoring just penalties this season. He's scoring big free kick, and he scores big goals for Rangers. Big goals for Rangers. It gets thrown back at him that he's not won as much as what other players have. But you need to look when he's been at Rangers, the teams he's played in, the Championship, coming back up, when he played in great Rangers teams. When Gerrard came in, obviously we started to turn into, I would say, a proper Rangers team by then. Won the title, he's won cups, he's been at a European final. He dragged us to that European final. How many goals did he score in that run? And
he was top goal scorer, I think. I think he was top. Yeah. He was certainly joint top goal scorer, I think, in the tournament.
Yeah, he's massive. It just summed up on Wednesday night there when he stepped up and put that free kick in the back of the net, Nicky. I just saw. I mean, I doubted him this season, and folk can go back and listen to the archives of when Michael Beale we get beat off Aberdeen that 3-1 game, and I said at one point he wasn't playing well. Tav, does the manager come in and make a statement and say, not just taking him out of the team, but I'll move the captaincy to somebody else, or I'll bring somebody else to be captain. And fair play to Tav. Tav stepped up big time since he's come in, majorly. Top 3 players for me since Clement's come in, but aye, for me, out of all these players that you've rounded off there, Nicky, he's number 1, and that'll get a lot of flack in the comments and after this. But for me, his stats don't lie. Frightening figures, and I don't think we'll really ever see another player like James Tavernier in terms of what he brings with numbers as a right back going forward. So enjoy him while he's here. Because he's going to be a very, very hard one to replace going forward.
I find it very hard to disagree with anything you've said, mate. I think it's funny. I see on Twitter quite regularly there's certain Rangers pages that do the on this day, and it would be like Rangers games playing against Hearts a few years back, and you can't help but think he is a consequence of some of the teams he's been part of. You look at some of the teams and the players he was playing alongside when he first came in. It's no wonder, right? He's not lifted 4 or 5 titles, right? You think about the circumstances behind the club. But yeah, I think likewise I think last season I don't think was his best. I think he was obviously terrific in the 55 season. I think he was very, very good in the couple of seasons before that. I think the season after 55 he was fantastic when we obviously done the run to Seville. But likewise, I didn't think he was great last year. And I think that the start of this season as well, we've actually spoken about it, haven't we, where there was a few murmurs of, is he just getting too old now, right? Is his legs maybe going? He looked heavy. But you could say that about a few players, right? You could say that about John Lundstrom. You could arguably say it about Dessers as well. I think one of the things that Clement has done, he obviously talked about the 4 pillars of success, and one of them was the physicality of his team. He spoke about it in his presser today. The physical attributes of his team and the squad is going up. Lundstrom looks like a different player. Tavernier looks like a different player. Even Dessers, you look at his return, certainly since the winter training camp, has been very, very good, right? Jamie's buzzing. about what he's contributing at the minute. So yeah, I think he will be overlooked a wee bit, I think, just because of some of the titles and how long he's been here. But I can't help but say I don't think James Tavernier would look out of place in any of those teams at right back. I think the full back position has changed. It has become more about attacking output as opposed to just defending and letting your kind of right and left mid do the kind of offensive work. But yeah, agreed. I think he would certainly be certainly in the top two anyway of that list that I've just rhymed off. Ali, just quickly, expectations now. We've got over 3 really difficult fixtures. On paper, they look all right up until the split, where obviously the biggie is Celtic. What's your expectations, mate? I know we're one game at a time, but what would be your expectations of where you would like to see Rangers? Obviously beyond the ridiculous, right? 10 points ahead or whatever, but where would you like to see Rangers, mate, get into the old firm at Ibrox and get into the split?
You look at the fixtures up to the split. Well, the next 4, is it? We are at home, 3 of them. So we play Motherwell tomorrow. Then we are away at Dundee. Then we're at home to Hibs, home to Celtic, and
maybe get Ross County away. Maybe
Ross County away. I think it's the last one before the split.
Maybe right.
So you look at them. Up to the, I take them in wee blocks, so I'm looking at the next games up to the Celtic game. So we've got 3 games up to then. I think Motherwell, Dundee, and Hibs before we meet Celtic at Ibrox. For me, it's got to be maximum points, Nicky. If we're serious about this title, we've come over the harder teams, if you want to say, but 2 home games in there. Away to Dundee, and I would obviously beat Dundee 5-1 the last time we were up there. They get scalped off Celtic recently. So for me, it's a maximum 9 points before we play Celtic. So you want to keep the gap a minimum. We can't... whatever happens to Celtic happens to Celtic. We can't look at them all the time. If we just look after ourselves, as Clement says all the time, it doesn't look across the other side. If they slip up, they slip up. But if we look after ourselves, 9 points maximum, and we keep the gap at 2, and then we play them at Ibrox, and I'm looking to beat them at Ibrox to go 5 clear. So if you go into the split, I mean, it's all hypothetical, and but if we win all our games, and this would provide Celtic win their games, because I think they will. So if we win all our games and beat Celtic at Ibrox, and then beat Ross County going into the split, you're 5 points clear going into the split. And obviously the split's dodgy because there's teams playing for European positions, etc. But that's where I want to be. I still want to be ahead of them when we play them at Ibrox to then hopefully go further ahead of them. And it's there for Rangers because it's the fixtures for me should be 9 points out of 9 before we meet them at Ibrox. I don't know what you think, Nicky. I'd assume you think along the same lines.
No, I completely agree. I think other than the ridiculous, right, as similar to you, mate, I think I said, I don't know if it was to one of my other WhatsApp groups or what, but I think the key for Rangers, if we're focusing just on us, is to have a 2 minimum gap versus Celtic. Get into that game. I think if you're then able to win the game at Ibrox, ideally Ross County away takes care of itself. You then get into the split, 5 points clear. I think the psychological boost we would get, and I think it would be a real opportunity to further take wind out of their sails, I think, because obviously they've beaten us twice this year. I think there is that psychological aspect. I think if, given we've kind of motored on, we've taken over them, I think if we can frustrate them by continuing to maintain that gap, if not grow it, and then to beat them, get into the split, I think would make it quite difficult. Likewise, listen, we've got to go to Celtic Park post-split. It looks increasingly likely that Aberdeen will not make the top 6, and therefore we will not have the dreaded
That's a shame.
to Pittodrie. But yes, it would probably likely mean that we would have an away at Celtic Park, an away, I think, at Tynecastle, and then one more, which would either be Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Hibernian, or Dundee. You would probably imagine one of them. So it does make our split fixtures probably slightly more challenging than I think than Celtic's, albeit they probably have to go to Rugby Park. But yeah, same as you, mate. I think if we can get 2 points, get into that game, opportunity to go 5, deliver a bit of a psychological blow, I'd be really pleased. We've got about 10 minutes. Quickly touch on the presser, mate. Obviously, bit of bittersweet news. Cortez is out for tomorrow. Clement is not getting into too much detail. Lawrence is obviously okay. I did find it funny that he referred to Ibrox as a normal pitch, talking about.
It's quite funny, that, wasn't it?
It was quite
Kamar
good.
Roof can come back because it's a normal pitch.
Indeed. And obviously, I always think you can read into a bit who does the presser with him. Desser's done it. Desser's, I thought, done quite well when he came on against Kilmarnock. I expect he'll play tomorrow when we do the teams. He obviously spoke a bit about the Wednesday result, probably doing more for this team than what the 5-0 drubbing of Hearts did. But anything else that you took from the presser, mate?
Aye, Ryan Jack's available. Carney be happy. I was like, where is that? I actually said to Carney, I'm like, where's Ryan Jack? Because I've never heard about Ryan Jack. But apparently he's available. The only other one, Nicky, I've not heard about, and obviously because of the Cortez injury, is Matondo. We've not heard when Matondo's due back, whatever. So interesting. I thought somebody might have asked that question on the back of Cortez being injured. Cortez, for me, when I seen him pull up, Nicky, I thought looks like he'd done his hamstring. That's hit the carney. That potentially that could be 4 to 6 weeks. And it's a shame because the boy, he was a bright spark in that game for me, and he's coming on to a game with us, and it's just bloody typical that he gets injured. But the press was what it was, to be honest. Folk asking stupid questions as usual, but Clement's he's wise to these idiots that ask stupid questions. But in terms of, I always look for who's available, Nicky. That's all I'm looking for in the presser. Who's available? Kamar Roof comes back, obviously playing the B team game the other week, so he comes back, gives us another option for through the middle as well, and for tinkering in terms of the team. So that's good that he's back. Ryan Jack, as I say, we'll see with Ryan Jack. It could provide. It could be critical, Ryan Jack, into the fixtures coming up, because he is a good player to have. Curry Muncher's also saying there about Kieran Dowell. Kieran Dowell, I think he's injured for a while. So, the one, Matondo was the one I was wanting to know about where he is. I know Norm was saying in the comments about Sima. I think Sima's still a while away, to be honest. I don't think we'll see.
I think somebody was talking about early April for Sima. You'd maybe get him back a wee bit early, maybe try and get him for the
I think you're talking the split for him, if you're being blatantly honest. So it'd be interesting to see where Matondo is in terms of the left-hand side. But I just look for who's available for tomorrow. That's all I'm interested in.
Agreed, mate. So we'll move swiftly on. Motherwell tomorrow, Ibrox, 3 PM. What are you expecting, mate, in terms of Rangers and what Motherwell will turn up?
Problem is, I don't know what Motherwell's going to turn up, because I watched Motherwell against Celtic at the weekend there. In first half, they played really well. They were probably the better team. They were unlucky not to go probably a couple of goals up. I thought they played decent. In the second half, they just kind of crumbled and fell away, to be honest. They're a weird team, Motherwell. Like I say, if you look at their kind of form this season, they started well, then they fell away. They have the odd good game. When they played us at Ibrox, I think it was away back in September, they were probably, and I actually thought they were one of the best football
Was
teams.
this the Boo game, the Beale Boo game, the 1-0?
Aye, it was 1-0, aye. But I remember them at Ibrox, and I actually thought they're one of the better footballing teams to come to Ibrox and actually play football. I thought they were decent that day. Obviously, we went to Fir Park, we beat them 2-0 comfortably, I think. So tomorrow, what I'm expecting, Nicky, is for Rangers to go out and win this game convincingly. Just go out. You're on the big park at Ibrox. It's like a bowling green at the moment. There's no excuses. I know we've got a couple of injuries, but there is no excuses. You're at Ibrox. You've got the carrot of going 5 points clear again before Celtic play on the Sunday. So that's a big one for me. So it's just go out and win, Rangers. Do it with a bit of swagger again, as we did against Hearts. So That's what I'm looking for. 3 points and a performance, hopefully.
Yeah, agreed, mate. I think you're right. I think Motherwell have been a bit of an enigma. I think
Yeah.
when you hear or listen to anything about Motherwell, the suggestion is always that they play very good stuff, but they just concede stupid goals. I think there was I don't know if it was maybe Open Goal were talking about it on their pod yesterday. They went through a sustained period where they did maybe not win for like 15 games or something like that.
Yeah.
They could still get top six, right? So you look at that bottom of the table, right? They could still sneak into top six. They obviously did a good result, I think, during the week. So yeah, I think likewise, I think they'll come and try and frustrate a wee bit, to be honest. So likewise, I think what would be great for us is if we can get an early goal, much the same as Hearts. It just disrupts them, disrupts their structure, disrupts their game plan, means they have to come out a wee bit. I suspect they will come and try and frustrate a wee bit, but same as you, I'm kind of hoping for another really convincing performance back on what was the word that Clement used? A normal pitch. Right, Ali, before we finish up, mate, your team and score for tomorrow.
I'd be surprised to see what we go with here, but Butland, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Barisich, not John, Yilmaz in there, Lindstrom, Diomande, Lawrence. I'm sticking with McCausland on the right hand side. I don't think he was the guy to have at Rugby Park on that park, but the big park at Ibrox, McCausland there, Jamie's man through the middle, D9 Dessers, because I think he deserves to play. The left hand side's tricky because you're looking who do you put out there. Tom Lawrence could play out there, or Scott Wright could play there. I'm putting Silva out there because Kamar Roof is now back on the bench as an option. So I'm putting Silva there, and I'm going 3-0 Rangers, Dessers to score the first goal.
To be honest, mate, I've got the same scoreline. I think the team broadly similar. Butland, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Ridvan, I suspect will come back in. Lundstrom, I think, will play. I did wonder if, because he made mention about Lawrence, didn't he? They are still managing his minutes. And I think he made a comment in the presser about he's available to play minutes. I don't think he said the full game. So I did wonder if maybe he'll go Sterling and play Diamondi maybe slightly higher up and actually drop Lawrence out potentially. But I'm the same as you, mate. I think McCausland will come back in on the right. I think it'd be, sorry, just to go back, I think it would be harsh to drop Sterling. I think he's been terrific last few games.
I know he's outstanding. I mean, you could play him bloody anywhere apart from the left-hand side, but he's just he's an animal, the guy.
I just love how aggressive he is. He's so aggressive in tackle. He's so aggressive in his running. He's so aggressive in everything they do. He's positioning right. He pops up all over the park. So I think it would be harsh. I do wonder if they maybe put him in, McCausland right, Dessers up top, and like you, I think this is maybe an opportunity to try Fabio Silva, maybe off the left. I think he's right-footed, so he can obviously come inside, etc., etc. So, I think that'll be it. I also think 3-0. I'm going to go Tavernier for the first goal. Not necessarily a penalty, but I think James Tavernier will be first scorer. Cool. Ali, I think we've done pretty good for time there, mate. Before we finish up, is there anything else you want to cover off or call out, mate?
No, I think we've just about hit the hour there. I think you've done very well tonight, Nicky. I think a lot of folk in the comments have been saying you've done very well. It's hard, to be honest, Nicky, with two of you sometimes, and it's easy when there's 3 or 4 of you because you just get a lot of opinions in there. But no, you've done well tonight. So well done in your debut of hosting Club Live.
Very good, mate. And I couldn't have picked a better podder to do it with, mate. So, Ali, thank you very much, mate. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I suspect that some of the guys will be back. I don't know, Ali, if you're coming back on with Scott maybe tomorrow for the reaction pod. But yeah, just a quick thank you to everybody for all the comments, the donations, another just chance to like and subscribe on the channel. And as I say, the boys will be back for tomorrow's reaction. We have been Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. Cheers, guys.